Okay, so on to Troy. Troy needs no real introduction in this group, but I'll introduce him anyway. I think Troy represents really the best of resilient, resourceful, powerful, creative Fairfield business. Something that was a gleam in the eye, a thought that has manifested into a business that is highly significant, both here and nationally, and also as thought leader, also as a way of moving the discourse on a state level and even a national level in the direction of something more sustainable, something more regenerative, something cheaper, something better. And I just really appreciate Troy and Amy and everything that they have done. So Troy, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I'm Troy Van Beek. I'm the CEO and co-founder, as Bob mentioned, with my wife, Amy Van Beek. And we've been running Ideal Energy for 16 plus years now. So we started in 2009 while I was at the university here at MIU. And I was a student of David's. And we actually, in my degree, designed a special accommodation so that we could I dropped out of school for 6 months and helped design the sustainability and wing that was the old science department, and did a lot of work there, and then came back in and finished my degree doing that. So it was a lot of fun. The university was kind of a foray into my business ownership, because I just treated the university as my business. And all the marketing and all the stuff that I could utilize within it, and just made full use of the university, and they were very accommodating to that. So I'm very appreciative of that process. So I'm just gonna go over a little introduction. I mean, no need to tell about my background. I was in the military and everything, but I've been here in Fairfield since 2006, got my degree at the university, and started Ideal Energy as I was departing. Before I had left, I was asked to be on the Go Green Commission by Ed Malloy, and it really got me to sink my roots in, because being asked to participate in designing a sustainability plan for the community just kind of woke me up on all the levels of the community, the interaction, and what a community was all about. And I had been living out of a suitcase for over 12 years at that point. And it was really interesting to see how everybody was being involved. And coming from a deep team atmosphere, I was in the Special Forces in the Navy, and seeing that in the community, everybody coming together and as a team, intrigued me, and it kept me here. So I've been working with Ideal Energy, trying to grow this business right here in Iowa and Fairfield. We have 2 locations, one in Des Moines and one here in Fairfield. So that's a little bit of my introduction, but we're actually a multi-award winning company. So we did start in 2009. We've been growing from residential and energy efficiency to commercial. And then now we do commercial and industrial, meaning like manufacturing plants, putting rooftop solar or ground solar on those. And we also do utility scale solar, which is big utility fields up to, we did about 130 acres of solar on a 30 megawatt project. And that was the biggest one that we've done so far. And then government projects as well. So that's another targeted aspect. It's this trifecta that we're after. And being a service disabled veteran owned small business owner, that puts me in a special class in government contracting, so that we can actually go after a set aside of business in the government arena. I was kind of pulled into the government projects because one of the largest panel manufacturers in the world, which is Q-Cells, had asked me to do a joint venture with them. And I spent an entire year like getting everything up to snuff for the government, which is a lot. And then the new administration took over, and they're like, we're not doing it. So we're still after government projects, but not with Q-Cell, not with our joint venture, which was a big change. But we've had a soft award just recently for a project that could be, in the hundreds of millions of dollars with a consortium of us that are involved in it. So there's projects out there, there's a lot of opportunity, and you need one project before you get two and then three and then four. So it's an aspect of what we're developing that we expect to turn into quite a lot. And, we've been rated top solar contractor several years running. And yeah, the type of projects that we do are anything from building integrated solar arrays to, parking lot carports to rooftops like we did in Des Moines. This was for Kemin Industries. It goes on this way and on the ground, but also like the large, like 130, acre solar arrays that are utility power plants. So more and more, the utilities see this as a very viable, way to produce their energy. And not so much here in Iowa, though we have installed here in Iowa. It's going up like gangster over in Illinois. So I'll get into that a little bit more. We also try to be an industry leader, so we put out a lot of white papers. And Eric just walked in. Where did he go to? He is actually responsible for putting all the right commas and the dots in the right place and those things. And so one of them that we did was on the Boone Green Ammonia project. The work that I did with Eric actually and one of our other contractors that works with Ideal Energy was a lot of work on hydrogen. So over the last administration, there was a lot of interest in hydrogen. And I have actually been looking at this for a while. And I had one of the foremost experts working with Ideal Energy, working with me on several other things. And we just started seeing that it was going to take place. Like if hydrogen took place, if it took off, it could be worth a lot to the energy economy of the United States. And we had done a lot of work. And then when it popped, the Biden administration said, we're going to invest $8 billion into the hydrogen industry. We were ready. So Eric and I and Jorge were just going gangsters on putting together business plans on how Iowa is going to roll out this big opportunity for hydrogen. And in the end, well, we really ran conservative in our state, and there wasn't enough support. And then we've kind of backed off, obviously, with the new administration on where hydrogen is going. But it got us a lot of attention, and there was a micro ammonia production facility that wanted to go in. And we because of the white papers that we put out, the information that we've been piloting, they wanted us to install the solar array for them. So that was the first micro ammonia production facility in the nation, right in here in Iowa in Boone. So it was a nice feather in the cap to be part of that. And we've got other ammonia production facilities that we're actually working on, smaller than this one, but we'll probably end up in more as a consequence of this one here. So it's an interesting industry, and ammonia is actually, nitrogen and hydrogen, the combination. They put this into the crops. If we can do it with green renewable energy, it's a much better output, because it's one of the dirtiest industries in the world. It's about 2% of the carbon emissions come from the production through fossil fuels for the ammonia that we use in our fields. So if we can do it with green renewable energy, it's massive change in the industry. And there's all kinds of use cases for ammonia. You can actually power engines off of ammonia itself. So I won't get too deep into that, but it was a pretty big focus for us for a while. And then agrivoltaics, using solar and crops at the same time. So we helped ISU put in these arrays and helped them with that project up at ISU in Ames. And then wrote a white paper about that. And then peak shaving, I'll get into that a little bit more about utilizing batteries for manufacturing and just how valuable they can be to the grid. So again, why energy storage? So the real advantage to this is in peak shaving. So when you come in and you start everything up in your factory, it just draws energy like crazy. So you get this massive spike of energy. So a battery, if you just had battery, you even didn't have solar, you'd be able to take advantage of leveling off that peak. So it's only for a short duration, but the utility is going to charge you that entire month or going forward, maybe even for the entire quarter, that peak rate, because you need it at any one time. They have to be prepared to give it to you. So batteries can come in and they can actually drop that peak and shave it right off. And it's very programmable, and the batteries are very, it's very easy to utilize them in that regard. So we did that right here in the community for Agriplastics, and you can drive by it here in the community. That's a Tesla battery pack that actually helps them mitigate their demand charges. So it had a 3-year or less payback for them because of that. And then you get, if you needed it and you could curtail your energy needs down to a critical load, you could turn that into a microgrid. So if you had the solar plus the battery, then you can turn that into a microgrid. So it's another use for the batteries. And then provide grid services, which means that power can be kind of dirty at times. It comes in, and you can utilize the battery as kind of a buffer for that energy, and it makes it much smoother. So there's all kinds of value to the battery. So it's a big part of the renewable energy industry. Different types of solar that we work with: ground mounted solar array for like a business. We can even put it on the roof as well. Lots of roof space out there. But this is basically what we do. Is commercial. We're really not involved in residential anymore. We did start in residential, but we haven't done that for years now. That ties into the grid. And then there's the large solar arrays like we do, like for, over in Illinois, some of them here in Iowa, and they tie directly into the utility grid. And this is the lowest cost of energy that's out there right now. So if they're going in, like in places that are incentivized in Illinois, and it's a really excellent replacement for the fossil fuels. And then again, the microgrid, which is solar, batteries, and then the end user, you can actually contain that where you're not even connected to the grid, or separated in times of need. Like if the grid goes down, you can actually keep your plant up. A little bit more detailed on the microgrid is bringing in like a generator as well. Your batteries, wind, all of that can be compiled. And then the monitoring system that we provide as well. So those are all facets of what Ideal Energy can provide. So let's talk about the market today. So Guide to Safe Harbor. So a lot of you have probably heard there's a lot happening in the industry right now, right? The new administration has turned everything on its ear. And being in this market for now 16 years, we often call it the solar coaster. It's up and it's down. Like we just get our feet under us, and then they pull the rug out with tariffs, the incentives, they come to a close, and you're just struggling to keep it where it needs to be. So right now we're going through that, and there's clearly a vendetta against renewables. So I'm just going to describe how that's transitioning right now. Over this last year, we were just cooking out proposals for projects. And, we have a huge pipeline of very big projects that we're very hungry to put in. But everybody was on pause, because where is the industry going? As soon as the new administration took over, everybody was like, we don't know where we want to put our money right now. And then the legislation was proposed. And then everybody had to wait for the legislation to actually drop, so they knew what the guidance was on the legislation. So our guide to safe harbor means, when should they be putting, what do they have to do? What does a developer or a customer have to do to get the best return on their investment right now? And before the end of the year, there's an opportunity to not be affected by the FEOC, which is the Foreign Entities of Concern. So part of the new legislation says that the equipment that's being used, if it's from China, Russia, North Korea, and there might be another one in there that I'm not remembering right now, that those pieces of equipment we don't want to use, right? So before the end of this year, if you can use whatever equipment you want that we've been utilizing, and you can get your tax credits. After December 31st, that changes, and we've only got until July 4th to get anything installed, but you have to be cautious of the equipment that you're utilizing. So it can't be from those people, those countries that I mentioned. You can imagine that China basically manufactures everything. And this is one of the reasons that they're putting this on there, so that we can bring US manufacturing in, but it puts a huge strain on the industry that has been built on this. So we're dealing with that. It's interesting. So where that delay was occurring this entire year, now everybody's like, holy smokes, I gotta get these contracts signed. So it's good and it's bad. So the timeline is where we want to be signing contracts right now. December 31st is the deadline for the safe harbor without the FEOC concerns, restrictions. And we have to start putting money down on the projects before we get them installed. So people have to say that we've already started construction before the end of the year to actually say that it's safe harbor. And then we have to do the same thing, but you can't have any of the FEOC equipment being utilized before July 4th of 2026. So that's the next deadline.
Are there any panels even manufactured in the US?
Yes.
Okay.
Q-Cells, that one of the largest panel manufacturers in the world, does have panels that are manufactured in the US. But there's a lot of, like, they had their factory raided and their ICE was kicking people out of their factory. You know, it's just, it goes on and on. Like, we could just go crazy on the conversations that are taking place in this industry. So obviously there's a lot of pressure on the industry to really kind of tamp it down. Matter of fact, they're even incentivizing coal. I don't know if you've seen any of that.
West Virginia.
Yeah, in Michigan. Yeah.
So, but right now, everybody's trying to get projects signed, and that's where we're at right now. So, the energy future. Let's talk about that for a second. So, after nearly 2 decades of flat consumption, U.S. electricity demand is rising at the fastest rate since the 1990s. Demand drivers: AI and data centers, electrification of transportation and heat. Now, I drove an electric car here today. So more of those electric cars, the more we're going to need for more power plants, and domestic onshoring of manufacturing. So if we do bring all that manufacturing in, we're going to need a lot of power. The demands for energy are astronomical right now. So alongside increasing demand, the price of electricity is skyrocketing. So rise in rates outpaces inflation. Prices now 45% above the rates in 2019. And that's a 19% year over year average increase. It's going to hurt the pocketbooks, right, for a lot of Americans. And what's driving this is everything that we just mentioned. So it's going to continue to go up way beyond this, you know, in the coming years. So electricity has become the defining commodity of the modern era. In the United States, the price, reliability, and availability of power have become critical forces shaping national competitiveness, productivity, and long-term economic growth. My goal will be to cut your energy costs in half within 12 months after taking office. We can do that. Donald Trump. That's what he campaigned right here in the Midwest on. But given his efforts, I would say that's not exactly the case. It's going to go through the roof. So regardless of the current perspectives of federal policy, here's the reality. Even without tax credits, solar is the most cost-effective form of new generation. Today, there is about 255 gigawatts of solar installed in the US, accounting for 7% of overall energy mix. The solar capacity is on pace to double in the next 5 years. So that's the demand we're talking about. So 40 to 50 gigawatts capacity coming online each year through 2030. So over the last years of production, we put in that 255. But going forward, we're going to put in another, similar amount of energy over the next 5 years. That's a lot of solar. So here's kind of a graph showing that, going up through 2025, we're still going to put in a lot of solar. But look how it outpaces where we were. Like we still need a lot of energy. So the good news is that even without the tax credits, they're going to have to put in renewable energy because you can't keep up with the demands. If we want to put in the data centers, which are huge energy consumers, then we're going to have to put in renewables as well. They're going to have to pay for it. Tax credits are going away. And hopefully we can keep producing lots of renewable energy as well. I'll just show you, the Midwest solar growth is led by Illinois. I'm hardly installing it all in Iowa. So that's just the way it is. So we're doing all of our work in Illinois. Here's Iowa. It's unfortunate. This is where I started my company, but we are existing in Illinois. And we've worked in Minnesota and Wisconsin, haven't worked in Indiana, but we are looking at a project there in Indiana. Actually, the government project that I mentioned, that'll happen in Indiana. So historic amounts of capital are pouring into the areas of electrification. So here's what's interesting about this. Utilities are projected to invest 1.1 trillion in grid modernization and related infrastructure over the next 5 years. There's an average of 170 to 180 billion per year, 35% increase over the period of a 5-year period. And JP Morgan Chase is to invest 1.5 trillion in security, resiliency, and initiative into energy independence and resiliency. Initiatives include battery storage, grid resiliency, solar, and nuclear. So they're saying regardless of what's being put out, we have to invest into this. If we're going to keep up with the demands of energy, we have to invest into it. For me, it's security. It was one of the reasons that I thought this was like such a great place to sink my teeth into, because it's, I come from a background of security. It's looking at our nation's energy security. We should build it up, but we have to invest into this. It's a great source of energy. So what's your ideal energy? Mine is the sun. But before I let you go, I also want to mention that Ideal Energy kind of outgrew our workshop. So where we were at 602, I don't know if you know where that's at, over there between 6th and Kirkwood.
Yeah.
Between Kirkwood and Stone on 6th. Great warehouse, great place to start a business. We moved across the street right over there to the Fairfield Glove Line building, gave us a little bit more space. I'm still occupying some of the warehouse in here as well, but we have the offices available here. So for someone that wants loading dock and, in offices, great place. I have a couple flyers over there, and if anybody's interested, let me know. Don't want to take anything away from CoLab here, but, this is for the loading dock. When I took that place over, I was operating on the tracks. I've got some buildings over there as well. And the first time I had a load dropped off with the loading docks, I was like, oh my gosh, this just paid for itself. It's so awesome. So I've got lots of space over there, lots of opportunity for someone that needs it. So I wanted to mention that.
The office is beautifully renovated, modern feeling.
Modern, beautiful, yes.
Yeah, it's an old building, and we used a lot of the historic aspects of it, old doors and stuff, and put new hardware on them and everything. So it's very nice. I like it a lot. It's just that we're busting out of it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 offices in there, and then a lot of cubicle space. We had all of our designers and engineers and stuff in there for a while. So it's pretty nice. So that's just some information on it. These are the offices back here, lots of warehouse, 30,000 square feet of warehouse, and then the offices as well. So anybody have any questions about the industry or Ideal Energy? Or yes, David?
What scared me almost more than anything else in the news these days is the power plants needed for AI.
Yeah.
Those data centers.
Mhm.
They're growing unbelievably fast, and they take as much energy as whole countries, as whole large cities in a short period of time.
And crypto is on the list.
And crypto is almost as bad, and even actually also TikTok, for instance, and they all are requiring just unbelievable amounts of energy. So much so that I've seen in the news, some of them are even looking to revive old nuclear power plants
Yep.
that have been out of commission, or now building up entire new fossil fuel powered power plants. So are any of them moving in the direction of solar? If solar is the cheapest way to go, are any of them moving in that direction, or does it take, what's the deal with it?
So they're not necessarily moving in the direction of solar, but for us putting it on the grid. So we're building the power plants that are grid tied, right? So we're trying to supplement the power that is needed in those areas with power plants, big utility scale power plants.
And do you see solar actually meeting that norm? You did mention it, meeting that.
It's going to take,
It's breathtaking.
it takes everything. It's going to take solar, it's going to take natural gas, it's going to take nuclear. And I think I think they're trying to leapfrog right into nuclear and the small modular reactors. So I don't expect them to actually come online for 5+ years, where they start taking hold, because it's still the permitting process for a nuclear power plant.
Well, what about?
It used to be about 20 years.
3 Mile Island, for instance, that's one of the.
But under this administration, I don't put anything past just, we're going to do it, that seems to be what's happening. So I think nuclear is going to be a big part of the mix. And right now, the fastest way to get new power is solar. It takes less than 2 years, and there's nothing else that comes close to that. If they want to meet this demand with natural gas, forget about it. It's 5 years out just to get the natural gas turbines right now. There's such a demand for them, and you can't manufacture them. So that alone, takes that kind of off the side, takes the nuclear off. What's left? Are we really going to reinvigorate coal? That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So
Phyllis?
2 quick questions. Do you see yourself moving into manufacturing now that there's going to be a need here domestically?
Manufacturing of panels? Probably not going to be my game.
Or any of the other components that have to do with?
Because the energy industry is going like this. It's just an upside down funnel. We will probably get involved, I know that we will, into industrial electrical, because someone has to build these data centers, and I'm an electrical contractor. So we have electricians within our company. We have about 65 employees right now, still small, but a lot of those are electricians. We have one of the very first apprenticeship programs in the state of Iowa, and we have it for electricians and for our solar installers. But we have our construction solar installers and then our electrical trade. So your question is, would we do manufacturing?
Yeah, it just seems like there's such a need for it, and you're so skilled at what you need.
Yeah, it isn't my game. I think I will stay in the electrical field, and there's just such a need because I have a rich history in renewables, and I think it's still going to be needed.
Yeah.
But I'm capable and prepared to just take care of installing new power plants, whatever they are. And I have to do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
so my other quick question is that when you moved into industrial contracts and left the residential, I don't think anybody filled in that gap here, especially in Fairfield.
Yeah.
Do you see anybody coming up into that situation for here, or?
It's a tough market.
Yeah.
It's a really tough market. I tell you, we didn't make much money doing it, to be honest. So, but I would, if anybody's interested in that, call us and we can refer you to the right people. So I don't want to turn anybody down, especially when you're trying to go solar. So we'll funnel you to the right spot.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Gregory.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on what she just asked.
Yeah.
There's a proposal out that peak shaving could work if there was a government incentive program to get heat pumps and batteries in every house to shave off the peak, and that would double our capacity if we could do that. And then for our residents in a condo, there are several people who are concerned with EMFs and the generation of EMFs. So there's all sorts of rumors around about solar generation and batteries and the inverters.
Giving off EMFs.
Yes,
Well, everything does. That computer does.
Yeah.
Your refrigerator does.
Yep.
Your cell phone does.
right.
So it's to what degree and how close you are to it, because it has, for every foot you drop away, it drops off by half. So if you're 3 feet away, it's pretty much done, right? So that's why they say you should be holding your phone at least, 6 inch plus away from your head,
Right.
because there is EMFs from these things, but, depending on the power, it drops off very quickly the further you stay away from it. So if your meter is right behind your bed, you might not sleep as well, if it's right there. So you want to be cautious of that, but I don't subscribe to that they're giving off negative, EMFs that you're having to deal with. Especially, given at night, obviously there's no solar, it's not happening, right? So it's not running, if that's a concern.
I think you could do a little experiment with this too, because any field follows the inverse cube rule, right? Which means that because it's sort of a spherical shape, it drops off by an exponent of 3. And you can just take a magnet, hold it next to another magnet, right? And you feel how dramatically it changes over a short distance. It's not a linear drop off,
Yeah.
and it's not even a square root drop off. It's a
Cute.
drop off, and those fields are powerful. They're extremely powerful, but the distance away from it, as Troy was saying, is mathematically has such a dramatic effect that the ability to measure it quickly, getting into extremely sensitive equipment.
I've used that argument with several people.
Yeah.
But it doesn't-
Yeah.
That logic doesn't work.
Yeah,
But-
and I agree. And I don't do residential anymore.
Right.
I told you it's
You're not
a lot
responsible.
of work, try to talk people in that they need that. And if they have their issues, it comes up, and I get a lot of calls. So that's why we install it in the field now, or we install it on the roofs of large commercial buildings.
In the RV industry, they have this company called Soft Start, and what they're doing is that they're
battery.
helping when the air conditioners come on in an RV, it has that peak, and then
Yep.
Soft Start makes it an easy thing, so things don't
That's right.
peak and all that. So
Yep.
that's the idea of having the battery regulate that initial,
That does help with that. Yep.
okay, so that's the idea.
I love our solar for
Yes, we install that in
industrial.
your business.
Yes, very
Yes.
happy about it. But the concern that I have now is when the power in Fairfield goes out.
Yep.
Everything shuts down.
Well, that's an addition to your system where we could put in a battery.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have to worry about that. And you would have to, reduce your critical loads. And I mentioned that earlier, is that if you want it to stay up, unless you get a very large battery, I know you're probably running electric ranges and things like that, well, you turn that on, it's going to drop that battery down to zero pretty quick.
Mm.
But the battery is to act as the grid. So it sends out a signal that is the same as the grid is. And it gives a handshake to the inverter and says, you can stay up and running. And then the solar keeps running, and then it feeds all of your appliances. And in a microgrid situation, you're disconnecting from the grid. So if the lines are down, then power's not running back out onto the grid and shocking the line worker who thought there was no energy on it, right? So that's the idea of a microgrid. So yeah, we can implement a battery if that's what you want to do. You would just have to be cognizant of how much autonomy you want, if it's hours or just to run some refrigerators and things like that, which in a food operation, those would be the more critical.
Yeah, it's more the flour mills, and then the grain cleaners. So to have that security in case we're out of power or whatever.
For a longer duration is
Possibly,
yeah.
yeah. Where do industrial batteries start at? I mean, like,
Price wise,
yeah.
well, we would have to start with what's your total load?
I need a
Is-
quote.
Yeah.
I'm
Not gonna help.
talking, starting at 50,000, is it?
Well, for a residential installation, like if you wanted just to keep your solar array up, it would last for the day, you'd be upwards over $10,000. So that's for residential, you know, you can kind of think about that. We're talking about a refrigerator, some lights, your computer, you know, if you start running your air conditioner, it'll zap it quickly. So take that into context. Yeah.
Thank you.
But if you wanted us to do an analysis of that, we can look at those loads specific and then determine how much better you would need. Rick?
Really appreciate your work. I was in Hal Goldstein's class when he first came out with his book. And I remember a quote in your chapter, which was, "In the absence of leadership becomes a leader."
Yeah, that was my experience at MIU.
Yep.
And that's what I was mentioning, where I dropped out of the university in an effort to get the sustainability department up to where I felt like it needed to be. And, you know, there was a lot of effort trying to make that happen, but I was like, I don't want my education like involved in that necessarily, where I'm trying to get my classes done. And they didn't have everything squared quite away yet. They were trying to get it up and running. So I just dropped out, helped them general contract some of the things that I thought would be great improvements, and then jumped back in. And David
This
gave me
was-
credit for it.
This was before the Sustainable Living Center.
Right.
In fact, we rented that building to
Yeah.
address the kinds of things that Troy brought to the fore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that was nice.
So, the question is, I'm reading a lot about nuclear. Everyone's trying to go nuclear now.
Yep.
So how many years would you give Ideal Energy before start playing with nuclear in some kind of contract?
I'm already putting into proposals. So this government project that we're looking at, it's hardening of a base that we're looking at solar, battery energy storage, generators, and then an option for SMR, which is small modular reactor. So we're not quoting that yet. We're just kind of setting it aside at this point because we know it's going to be 5+ years before it's even going to be allowed, right? Because it does take permitting, and that would be an expedited timeline from my perspective. Again, I don't put anything past this administration on how they just like, nope, we're doing it. You know, it's going in tomorrow. So, you know, who knows? But that would be to me, the condensed timeline.
As an operator, like, I'm trying to imagine what your day-to-day is like. How much time do you have per week towards like expanding, or do things just come to you at this point in terms of new
Lots of time. Lots of time.
Yeah.
So, I'm always thinking about expanding. So that's my position in the company, is kind of the business development. And like, I'm flying to Africa on the 28th, and I'm thinking of how I can get low cost labor, to be honest with you, to help the engineering of one of our partners. So they are so shy on engineering. Like, we partner with Shy Pattery, which is where our office is in Des Moines. And they're an amazing company. We have a beautiful office over there. And I'm recognizing that they are, you know, getting behind. Like, they're growing so fast, they can't find enough engineers. Well, I've got employees that are from South Africa, and they're like, I can get you engineers. So, you know, it's being an entrepreneur is recognizing the needs and then making the connection. So I'm going to fly there and see if we can set up a employment center there. And then on top of that, they're putting in so much solar, gigawatts upon gigawatts of solar right now. And they don't have it set up to do the operations and maintenance for those solar arrays. They're not doing it well. Another business opportunity for me. So I'm always looking, you know, you test the waters and you see if it's going to work or not. That's my full-time job. I work, you know, 7 days a week. I really put my time in. I don't have a lot of time outside of Ideal, because it's a mountain to climb what we're up against. The solar coaster is no joke. Right? This is one of the most difficult industries in the world, you know, construction in general. And then throw renewables on top of that. It is crazy. And now throw our new administration on top of that. And yeah, it's hard to really quantify like the effort, you know, that I'm putting in to try to make this work, and just how flexible, head on a swivel you have to be to try to get it all done. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Faith.
For those that have pre-installed arrays
Mhm.
who have some of the older equipment where microinverters are always needed to be replaced,
Mhm.
stuff like that. Say like an Envoy, are those about to, are you gonna have restriction?
End phase is what you're looking
Yeah,
for,
end
right?
phase.
Yeah.
Is that going to be restricted coming soon with the FEOC?
Yeah, Enphase is a US manufactured company.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, and so you don't have any like major, like just thinking of Fairfield specific, do you have any installations that are potentially going to have upgrades or updates
So-
that might be affected?
Here's what I'll tell you about the residential. Through the end of the year, you can do it yourself if you have a new installation. So as far as the equipment, you're not gonna have any problem with Enphase. And I'm not exactly sure how that'll be affected. The thing is, you won't get your tax credit. So what they're trying to say is like, I'm not gonna give you any more credit for foreign equipment. We can still install, but the administration is gonna limit the tax credits that you can get on it. But one of the set-asides for the residential market is that you can do it through a commercial leasing company. So if you want to still get solar, they're holding on to the tax credits until the end of 2027. So installations can still occur with residential through 2027, but you do it through a solar leasing company. Through the end of the year, you can do it yourself and you don't have to go, you can go to your bank and get money for it and do the install. And then after that, I think you have to go through a solar leasing company. So a third party, that sets it up for you. And then they take the tax credits. You can't as a resident, as a homeowner. Yeah.
Do you see Fairfield being a possible, is it possible that we can have a community utility in the future? Do you think Alliant will play ball and allow Fairfield?
There was talk about it.
Yeah.
Do you know much about that, Bob?
Not really, not enough to say anything reliable. I would say we don't, anything is possible.
So I know there's been talk, there's
There was-
always threat,
But your report, but
Mhm.
that project back,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that wasn't gonna be.
the only community gardens Mid-American, we installed that 130 acre project was for Mid-American. So they're doing large scale utility projects. So is Alliant, but as far as community solar where you get to buy in, the only ones we've done that for was a municipality. So Alliant's gonna fight that tooth and nail.
Yeah.
They would rather control the rates on everything. And I think that they're gonna make it very difficult before they turn over a community solar garden.
And with ITC doing the grid upgrade, do you see more data centers popping up in those areas? Do you think that's something that's potentially gonna happen where the grid has been upgraded?
Well, there's a lot of factors I think that go into, they have to have good access to water, because there's the massive amounts of cooling that goes into those things. And I don't know all the logistics. I've got my head down turning nuts and bolts right now. But obviously we need better infrastructure. It's a very aged out grid system that we have right now. So a lot of money is going to have to be dumped into it. And that's why I say industrial electrical for us is our direction. And then we'll keep doing renewables as long as it's there. But there's so much electrical infrastructure that has to be put in, especially because of the data centers and the data centers themselves. They need to be constructed and the electrical needs to go in, and we can do that. So that's about as much information as I have on that. Yeah, I'm not looking at where they're going in right now, just that they need energy. Yeah.
Are you still installing lithium ion batteries or something you didn't?
Yeah, I mean, there's lithium iron are out there, but lithium ion is like Tesla is what they're doing mostly. There's all kinds of great talk of new batteries that are coming out. CATL is a Chinese manufacturer that is talking about putting out solid state batteries, really interesting. Sodium batteries, there's a lot of promise for that.
That's
Lithium
a big limiting factor right now, isn't it?
is what?
Is battery capacity.
Yeah, there's a lot of limiting factors in the whole energy market right now, but you know, there's trillions of dollars that are going into the investments in battery technology as well. And that's what I'm pointing to is lithium ion is basically the go-to right now. It's very reliable. We know what we're going to get with it, but there's limitations. Like when you get in the cold weather, they draw really fast, right? It's a little bit worse in the winter for our electric vehicles. And there's talk about mixing different types of batteries so that we can have the extended winter life as well. You know, and the sodium batteries where I see talk about that, mixing those two. It's not mixing them together because sodium and lithium doesn't go so well, but as draw from this in the winter, draw from this in the summer.
Interesting.
Anything else?
All right, you're getting close to our time.
Jeff, any questions?
How about a big, any one more question?
What do you think are the roadblocks to keeping, why don't we see more solar panels on large parking lots? So a lot of parking lots, and it seems like the initiative is put solar panels in ag fields, and then you have to transmit the power to the city.
It's cost. So you're talking more steel, more concrete. There's a lot of concrete that goes into the ground for a big structure that is levered in the air. So that's a lot more cost than just putting it onto a roof or tying it directly into the ground, lower to the ground.
High enough for the cars to go.
Yep, it has to be high enough, and then there's a lot of concrete that goes into the ground as a lever, you know, to counter lever what you're putting in the air. So that would be the big reason. And then the solar availability in our area is not as great as is in California. So you're going to see a lot more in very, very sunny states where it just makes sense. People want the sun off their car in the first place, so they're going to put in a carport anyways. Might as well put solar on top of it. Greg, did you have a?
Just thinking about the EMF problem and how to get rid of that.
Okay.
All right, how about a round of applause for, all right.